Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive in today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
What's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media, filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. It's his birthday coming up, by the way. Happy birthday to the great one. And Mark will be back on Monday. He's taking care of that torn quad that he's been taking care of. But I'm here with you. I'm with you straight till 9 p.m. tonight. Can't wait. We're going to get into a lot of things. You know why? Because the left says that there is a threat to democracy. And I'm going to tell you that the real threat here is MAGA. MAGA is a threat to domestic corruption. I'll repeat it for you. The Make America Great Again movement is a threat to the corruption in Washington, D.C. and the rest of the deep state pendejos that are out there. The problem with MAGA for everybody in the deep state is that it threatens things, right? It threatens everything that they use against us. For example, a body politic that's awakened by truth. This is a huge threat to the deep state. It's a threat to the government gangsters, like Kash Patel says, that collude against who? You and me, we the people. MAGA is a threat to gender norms. MAGA is a threat to income taxes. You hear about that all the time. MAGA is a threat to continued wars and conflicts. MAGA is also a threat to the left's scheme to prostitute climate change, to manipulate people into doing their Green New Deal and changing the economic agenda. MAGA is a threat to open borders and open border politicians that are importing the next generation of sex slaves and indentured servants right here into the United States. MAGA is a threat to the American people. And this is where I underline, right? MAGA is not a threat to the American people per se. MAGA is a threat to the economic prosperity that we could have as American people, and we don't have anymore. It's a threat to people that want to rely and have to rely on Uncle Sam for their provision. Now, there are people out there that ultimately believe that their providence comes from God and in the health that God's given us to provide for our families. MAGA doesn't threaten that, does it? But it does threaten you if you want to live off the system. Because ultimately, MAGA is a threat to the system. This government wasn't created for the benefit of the system, the benefit of the politicians, or the benefit of anyone else except we, the people. The consent of the governed. This is so key because I think, A, we lose sight of it, and B, we've allowed it to dissipate, right? It's just kind of fading off. Enter El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, and he comes in and he says, no, you know what? We're going to make America great again. We're going to drain the swamp. Starts to change the narrative, starts to go after the media instead of the media going after him. Donald Trump has set the example. And I don't mean that in every single way, right? Because people are going to come at me, right? What do you mean? I'll tell you exactly what I mean. He set the example for how you do this, right? How you formulate this movement, how you fight back, how you punch up at every level. The guy was sitting pretty, right? El Trompito, sitting pretty on Fifth Avenue at a huge, big gold building there with his name on it. Supermodel wife. Nice place. What does he do? He goes to the swamp. Why? Because he figured out that in order to effectuate change, you've got to get on the inside. You want to change the media, you got to become the media. You want to change the government, you got to become the government. It's as simple as that. That's exactly what the left has done. And we could sit there and try and discredit them, and great. That works to some degree. I think it does. But in reality, they don't call it the mainstream media or mass media for no reason. It reaches the masses, right? As large and powerful as conservative radio is, we don't reach as nearly as many people as some of these other things. Now, I'm not saying like CNN and some of their cheesy shows where a show like this one blows it away, for sure. 18 million listeners right now dialed in. That blows away a lot of CNN. But by and large, when you put it all together, you put the movies together, the entertainment establishment, the media, the left within the media, the left within higher education establishment, voila, you've got a juggernaut, a serious propaganda machine that's a force to be reckoned with. And then you have this guy, El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. It's like David and Goliath, right? 5 stones. He takes them and he starts launching them at Goliath. And it's been working, but they're coming back, right? Goliath hasn't been taken down. And I don't know that we can take Goliath down completely. And I say that not because I'm not optimistic. I say that because I think it's important that the fight is part of what we do. If you look at Trump, again, using as an example, the fight is what he does. He lives for the fight. If there was a win at the end, he's used to winning, right? You're going to get tired of winning, folks. I love it when he says that. But the reality is there's always got to be another win because it's about the fight. It's about the journey. It's about enjoying that journey, like Reagan said, right? To be a happy conservative warrior. I've met some of our conservative brethren that have told me that once we drain the swamp and we do this and we do that and this takes over and that takes over and these people go to jail and this and that, everything's going to be okay. And I'm thinking, you know what? That sounds just as utopian as anything Bernie Sanders has ever sold me. There's no silver bullet to this thing. Right? Reagan said it best when he said freedom is never more than one generation from being extinct. And that's it. And that's what we fight for day in and day out. Everybody does it in their own way. Some of us do it on the radio. Some do it in television. Others do it at their job, doing whatever they do. Every single day, day in and day out. We're fighting for the next generation, for our children, for our neighbors' children. If our kids are, big already, and the neighbor has little kids, every day we're trying to make life better for those that are ahead of us. And if you're not, then you should consider it. Because that's the only way. You want to beat the media? You got to become the media. You want to beat the government? You got to become the government. You can't just break the system down. You've got to change it from within. That's the only way. Now, tonight I want to get into a bunch of things because Oprah Winfrey, or as my daughter used to say when she was little, Oprah Windshield. Oprah Winfrey sat down and did a live, in many ways, from a professional perspective, that was really cool, right? Imagine Mark Levin doing that. Mark Levin sitting down and doing a live episode of Life, Liberty, and Levin, right, with El Trompito. Now, I know he had him on the show recently, but the way Oprah did it was so big and so many people, and it was like a throwback to the 90s and her TV show. Very cool. The problem was, she was the one now babysitting Que mala eres, which means how bad you are in Spanish. And Que mala eres, the vice president, there was instances there where she couldn't even get through some of the questions, and Oprah kind of carried her through the finish line. This is not someone of the caliber that can be president of the United States, for sure. Not at all. So we're going to get to some clips of that we have. I also want to get into some of the other things that are going on, because I think there's a few things as we wrap up the weekend. There's plenty to discuss. Of course, your calls. I love chatting with the Levin audience. We're going to get into that. We have the governor of Florida, America's governor, Ron DeSantis. He's hitting back at a lot of things. We're going to get to a couple of things on that. And, of course, this guy who I think, in my opinion, in the words of the immortal Bob Grant, this guy, Ronald Rowe, acting Secret Service director, he's a real fake, phony, and fraud. And we're going to check in on a few things there as well. So anyway, folks, again, I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. I'm sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Some of you guys know me as Mr. Call Screen. I was Mr. Call Screener here on the Mark Levin Show for, I don't know, about 5 years. And now I have my own nationally syndicated radio show that's on hundreds of radio stations. It's so exciting, and I absolutely love it. And I'm so excited I get to be here. Like my buddy Curtis Lewis says, so nice I get to do it twice. And I want to talk about this Oprah Winfrey thing, right? It really caught my eye because, again, my show's on at nighttime from 10 o'clock at night to 1 in the morning. So as this thing was happening and unfolding, we were able to get the audio clips of this last night. So, I talked about this last night, and there was a clip in particular that really stood out to me. And it was the one where the audience member asks her about the border. And you would think this is her chance. She's got her people in the room. I'm sure she handpicked them along with Oprah Winfrey. She's got Oprah Winfrey there to have her back. And she still can't answer this. Listen to this.
When you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations.
Hold on a second. Let me tell you something. Que mala eres. You are a transnational criminal, in my opinion. You, Joe El Baboso Biden, and Alejandro Mayorkas are overseeing the largest human smuggling operation, which rivals any modern-day slave trade right here in the United States at the southern border. So when you talk about prosecuting transnational criminals, look in the mirror, lady. Play the tape.
The trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border.
But does she really take it seriously? I mean, really, does she take it seriously? She just talked about every single crime that we hear about there. Guns, human smuggling. What is she doing about that? You've got women that are getting raped along the way. You got little girls that are being brought from south of the border, across the border, being told by the people bringing them, listen, you're going to get raped, take one for the team. There's some people that give them medicine so that they don't feel it as bad, so they're half sedated, so they don't remember the terror of what it's like to come to this country. This is que mala eres, right? The vice president of the United States, the first woman this, the first woman that, the first woman this, the first that, the first. I'm going to say she is the first transnational criminal to occupy the vice presidency, and God forbid we let her into the White House. Go ahead.
Of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents.
You know what it was going to do? I'll tell you what it's going to do, que mala eres. It is going to make sure that we allow 5,000 illegal immigrants per day into the country. That's, I think by most people's math, something like 2 million a year. And that's not the 1 million a year that we agree to do legally by way of visa and whatever, lotteries, etc. So when she talks about, again, this is the answer to the question, what are you going to do to strengthen the border? You that have been in the White House and as vice president the last 3.5, almost 4 years, what are you going to do? Well, this is what she's going to do. She's going to blame Trump, right? She's going to blame Trump and the most conservative Republicans and a border bill and 1,500 new officers. 1,500 new officers. We've got, I don't know, 15, 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. It's taking over city by city by city and state by state. And this is the best that she can do in a controlled environment with her handpicked people, with Oprah Winfrey by her side. Unbelievable. Let me tell you something. You give me an audience with my hand-picked people and Dr. Phil interviewing me, my goodness, we're going to blow it up, right? It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to have the best answers ever. This is the equivalent of getting the debate answers. This woman is a disgrace, in my opinion, but she's not done. Listen to this.
Let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill.
You know what? It's funny, Kamala. If I can't, that's a Levin line, right? If that is your name. You know, Kamala Harris is so funny. She says that's why that they endorsed the bill. What bill did they endorse? She got one or two of these border guys that are sellouts because the actual leadership, right? The former president of the Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd, he's with the Trump campaign now. He's out there beating the pots and pans. I've interviewed him. I know you've seen him on television. He's everywhere he needs to be. Every time Trump is at the border, he's right next to him, making sure that the truth is being told. And he was out there saying that he gave her the tools. He gave her the blueprint. He told her what needed to be done, and she rejected it and didn't do anything when she was in San Antonio. So what gives, Kamala Harris? This woman never had any intention of doing anything. The reality is that what people used to accuse Republicans of years ago, the country club Republican that was soft on immigration because they needed people to work in factories and work picking lettuce and work doing this and work doing that, that's all happening again. The difference is now the political juggernaut in America is el Latino, right? The Hispanic. The Hispanic minority is the largest minority in the country, and they have more kids than anybody else. Very fertile people. Okay, so what happens? These guys are ahead of the game, and they're like, we're going to tap in now because in a few generations, they'll all be citizens, and we will be ahead of the game. Now, what I think they haven't accounted for is the fact that culturally, many Hispanics, myself included, tend to be very conservative. You know, it's a very typical greeting in Hispanic culture to ask for a benediction, right? When you see someone of authority, of respect. If I see my grandfather, I say, bendición, abuelo. I ask him for his blessing, and then he'll say, que Dios te bendiga, mijo. You know, God bless you, my son. And that it's a somewhat formal thing, but this is legit, right? This is how I was raised, and many. So when you talk about at least faith as part of being conservative, that's there. And this is something that I think doesn't go away. Family values, commitment to family values, staying married longer, having more kids than others. These are all very, very traditional, very strong values in Hispanic communities, irrespective of whether it's like Caribbean Hispanics or Latin American Hispanics. They tend to share this. So I think there's a political miscalculation amongst the Democrats here, but they don't care because right now the reality is all they want is bodies. They want bodies because they want a supply. You know, and I'm all over the place here. I'm having ADD moment with a minute to go here. But there was a story about 6 months ago. 14-year-old kid gets caught with his hand in a mechanical chicken separator at a chicken plant overnight shift. First thing I thought was, why is a 14-year-old, 12-year-old kid there? He's an illegal alien. He was smuggled into this country to work for peanuts. Who knows who's getting the money once he gets paid? And this is happening all over the country, and we don't even know. There was one raid where they caught a bunch of them at McDonald's. So McDonald's has overnight shift, cleaning staff, et cetera, et cetera. We got a huge problem. And all Kamala Harris can do is sit here and talk about how the 3 or 4 pendejos from that she got to sip her Kool-Aid to endorse her plan. No, sorry, ma'am. I'm not buying it. I don't think the rest of America is either. You've got something like 58% of independents that agree with a mass deportation plan. Why do you think that is? This woman is a disgrace. Anyway, folks, again, my name is Rich Valdes. I'm sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin. We're coming right back. Keep it locked right here. And, of course, your calls are welcome. 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Rich Valdes in for the great one.
This is Mark Levin with an urgent message. We are living in grave and dark economic times that are going to get worse. We just saw an abysmal jobs report while unemployment shot up to the highest level since the end of 2021. Meanwhile, the stock market looks like a gamble. Many banks are getting crushed as recession fears mount. The S&P Banks Index fell 2.4% in a single day. That's a lot. Regional banks fell nearly 3%. That's even more. These are bad signs. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts. You need to protect your wealth. That's where diversification and gold comes in. It's been a bedrock of wealth preservation for centuries. And the best company I know of is Advantage Gold. Their experts can help you protect your savings from economic chaos. Call now, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Call now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, tough as hell.
That's why I like Mark Levin. And I'm not sure a lot of people like him. He's tough as hell. But I like him. I love him.
Call in now. 877-381-3811.
All right, familia, welcome back. Rich Valdes, you're tuned into the Mark Levin Show. I am pinch hitting today for the great one. His birthday is, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So happy birthday to the great one. And I was on the phone with Mr. Producer on my cell phone, and we go back and forth a lot. Obviously, he's one of the best producers in the game, if not the best, in my opinion. And he's always sending me stuff. We're friends in real life. Make sure you follow Rich Cementa too. By the way, he's got the best stuff. When you follow his social media, you'll see a lot of excellent clips at Rich Cementa on all the social media. Now, speaking of that, Mr. Producer posted a clip of Kamala Harris, and she was talking about guns. And this was really the big one, right? This is the one where everybody fell off their chair, and they were like, "No, she didn't just say that. What is going on here? ¿Qué le pasa?" So we're going to find out what's going on with her right now. Kamala Harris at the Unite for America event with Oprah Winfrey. And she says, if somebody breaks into my house, man, they getting shot. Listen to this.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that. But my staff will deal with that later.
Now, I got to tell you, I'm actually laughing. I thought that was very funny. I think that was so real when she said, my staff will deal with that later. And I shouldn't have said that. I think she realized it. That was a rare moment of truth. Now, I believe that started as a scripted pandering moment. I'm a gun owner. So is Tim Walz. And we know Tim Walz and his scripted thing, weapons of war that I carried, weapons of war. And, nobody should have them. And another one. He's something else. Tiananmen Tim. But this one, I think, was her, keeping it real. Like, hey, she was in effect saying, look, folks, I live in San Francisco. You need to be strapped in these streets. You got to. And she says, if somebody breaks into my house, they getting shot. I think she meant every word of that. Because you don't hear Democrats talk like that. And the reality here is, and Oprah was like, no. She was melting down. The whole thing was very funny because it was so real. So the question is, what happens here? Where is she at on this? I think she's figuring out. This is a move on her behalf, right? I think her people are like, look, if you do that, the gun grabbing people, and I think she's thinking, you know what? I can live without the gun grabbing people. I probably need the Second Amendment people. So maybe she's making a move for that because she can't abandon ship on abortion, right? The minute she says, oh, leave it up to the states. And, she likes to plagiarize Trump, right? Imagine she says, look, we should leave it up to the states. That's what Trump says. Imagine she said that. Well, what happens here is they would go buck wild, right? They would be insane, absolutely insane in the membrane, the left, because this is their issue, right? Abortion is their thing. Without abortion, what do? They can't sell fetal baby parts. What do? Right? Well, women's reproductive health and all this other craziness, rights. So this is, I think, the only issue where she said, I can flip-flop. Now, what happens if she flip-flops on the border? She can't. Why? Because she is a transnational criminal who is allowing and overseeing the largest human smuggling operation ever. I'm going to call it the modern-day slave trade, and it's happening right at our southern border. So what happens there? There's too many people involved in that mix, right? I don't know who they cut the deal with, if they're cutting the deal directly with the cartel, if they're getting a kickback on all the people that are paying to come across the border. I really don't know. But I do know they can't bail out on that one. They can't. Right? So they can't bail out on abortion for political fallout. In my opinion, they can't bail out on the border because who knows who will come visit them, right? That somebody coming to her house may be from the cartel. I don't know. So I think this is probably the only issue she could bend on. Oh, and of course, you can't, she's already flirting with the idea of, I'm for fracking. I'm not for fracking. I am for fracking. Pennsylvania, we can frack. Nowhere else we can't frack. She doesn't even know where she's coming or going on that one. And people see it. They smell blood in the water. So this is why after 91 felony counts, 4 separate cases, 400 possible years in jail, 2 impeachments, and now 2 assassination attempts. El Trompito is still within a point or two of her, plus or minus on either side. Battleground, across the board, whatever. And, you know, it's starting to open up, and good for him that it is. But, wow. You tell me how bad you suck, right? Que mala eres. How bad you are, ma'am. That you've done all this, and you can't slow this man down a little bit more than that. With all of that, with all of the lawfare, with all of the assassination attempts, with all of the media garbage, with the 3-on-1 at the debate, you would think that they'd be a little bit better, right? They'd be doing a little bit better, but no, they're not. So this is why I think she's like, you know what, I'm going to have to bend on another issue, because otherwise I might be screwed here. And I think she wants to win. And I've never met a candidate ever that got into an uphill battle and didn't think they could win. Everything could be against them, and everybody will tell them in their face, look, you know you can't win. You know you can't win. In the back of their mind, they're like, you know what, I can win. If I do this and this, I can win. Because it's like addictive, this political stuff. I ran for office once, 2005, a long time ago. And they told me, you're never going to win. I was like, I can win. Who are you, man? You know, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I was like, you don't know nothing. And guess what? I did not win. I did get close to 40% of the vote, I think it was, 30-something%. And that was a lot better than a Republican had done in that district prior to me. So I was really proud of that. But my point is, it's an addictive thing. Anyway, so I'm going to get your thoughts on these things. The phone number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811 if you're a lib and you want to have a discussion with me. Let's see. What do we got here? Going to check out my guy, Ivan, Miramar Beach, Florida. Used to be from, what was that, Maryland, Delaware? Where were you at, Ivan?
Used to be in Maryland.
Maryland, my man. I haven't talked to you in years. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I'm glad we escaped. Hey, listen, Rich, you were talking about the threat to democracy, and it's just such a shame. This thing is just begging for a commercial, and I don't know why the RNC is so slow to do commercials on this kind of stuff. But they talk so much about Trump, democracy, and Trump being a threat to democracy. All they have to do is run a commercial with Trump saying, I am a threat to Democrat democracy. And then this is what Democrat democracy looks like. All the things that you talked about earlier, Rich, but it also looks like, forced vaccination. It looks like lost jobs if you're not vaxxed. Our kids forced to be vaccinated, slapping and knocking out citizens walking down the sidewalk, herd looting, burning police stations, non-prosecution of criminals, 15 million illegal aliens coming across the border, and then you close the commercial with Trump saying, I will gladly be a threat to Democrat democracy. This thing writes itself, Rich. I don't understand. One more thing, and I'll be real quick. This thing about P. Diddy and human trafficking thing, human
Crazy,
trafficking
right?
our kids. I am so disappointed that we are reticent to bring social and moral issues to the front. All the issues are important and grave and consequential, especially the 20 million illegal aliens. But we don't want to broach the indoctrination of our kids. Whatever your sexual preferences are, don't have drag queens twerk in our kids' faces. Don't teach our kids a man can have a baby, that there's 59 genders. Don't teach it. You masked our kids, you vaxxed our kids by mandate, you threatened their educations. You taught them racist CRT. You abort our babies. And if Trump ever did another debate, he would just knock it out of the park by saying simply, leave our kids the hell alone. He would knock it out of the park, Rich. And that's what. And I just wish if he has another debate, I wish he would use that line. And if not, just do a commercial.
Ivan, this is one of those things. I mean, he said he's not going to do any more of them, but I think you're spot on. And this is back to the point I was saying. If we want to impact the media, if we want to beat the media, change the media, we got to become the media. If I had $1 for every time somebody gave me the advice that you just gave me, right? That why doesn't the RNC do this? Why don't the Trump people do that? All I could say is, and I know it's not an easy lift; it's a very hard one. But this is why we all have the ability to open up a PAC or a super PAC and go to our friends, especially if you're retired. How hard could it really be, right? You find a few guys that are gung-ho about the same issues you are, and you go, look, you going taking your wife to Hawaii again this year? Why don't you take her to, I don't know, take her somewhere local, take her somewhere nice, and drop 5 racks. Right? Give me $5,000. 4 or 5 of us get together. We'll have $25K and we'll do a small media buy. We'll start a little PAC. We'll make our own commercial, and we'll knock our socks off until we run out of money. Maybe we could raise some more money, raise another 25, and do some more commercials. And that's where we're at. And I feel this is exactly what Trump did, to the point of saying, I mean, how many times did Trump say, I'm running for president, I'm running for president? This guy's been doing it since he was putting out ads for the Central Park 5 a million years ago. But ultimately, he gets involved, right? Ultimately, he throws his hat in the ring. And then, the guy doesn't run for not even dog catcher, and he wins for president of the United States. You got to love that. Salute to El Trompito. And Ivan, thank you, brother. Always good to hear from you and catch up with you. Mr. Producer, do we have time for another call, or do I pause here? All right. I have been instructed to stop running my mouth for about 3 minutes and then come back, so don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdes in for the Great One.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
All right, familia, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes sitting in for the Great One, Mark Levin. Our phone number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. if you want to disagree with me. And I'm going to get to your calls now before we wrap up the hour. Now, I want to get your thoughts on anything that we've been talking about. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Viviana calling from Brooklyn, New York, listening on the great WABC, where I started my radio career. Viviana, go right ahead.
I remember you, Rich. We talked a few times as I came in, called in. And
I remember as well.
I love your monologue. Thank you. And I'm praying for Mark's recovery. I'm just really encouraged that it went well. The reason why I called in is that for Latinos, they're not getting the que mala eres because El Diario, Univision, and the other television
the
media,
Hispanic language media
is not giving us the truth. They're not giving us the truth, and they have that responsibility. So as I thought about it all, I said, if we can get out that message, like you said, que mala eres is going to bring us servitude. Vamos a ser sirvientas.
Yeah,
we're going to get comunismo, and we're going to get socialismo.
You're 100% right, Viviana. Nobody wants to be a slave to socialism or anything else, right? We're all here. I think we signed up for the free market. We signed up for the America that the founders created, and we want to protect it. So God help us, right? That's our job. Viviana in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to WABC. Let us continue. Let's see what else we got here. We got San Francisco. Let's go to KSFO. Matt, go right ahead. Matt, are you there?
Thank you. I'm going to go right to the point. I'm calling from Tijuana by the Bay. Used to be San Francisco. But I would like President Trump, when returning to the White House, to sign an executive order for preborn ultrasound to be mandatory. And it should be crouched under the rubric of pro-choice, restoring Roe v. Wade, because I really want to shove it in their face because, you know, they do the same thing. This mandatory buyback of guns is a confiscation. So let's play the same game.
Well, Matt, here's my thought on this. And I know that they've had similar bills like the heartbeat bills and whatnot, and I'm not against them per se. But I am against big government. I always have. I don't want the government telling me what to do, when to do, how to do. I really don't. If that's what the states decide to do, to implement required ultrasounds especially before, like the heartbeat bill is if you're getting an abortion, you have to get an ultrasound and check the heartbeat. And, I think that's a good idea. I'm all for it. Honestly, I am. But I always think it's a slippery slope when we start, using the government to force this or to force that. It's the last thing I want to do. And it's a tough place to be, right? Because you want to, it's like, think about getting pulled over by the cops, right? The cops pull you over. You want to be the nicest guy ever. My brothers were cops. I actually was a volunteer cop for a while myself. And I can tell you this, I want to be nice and polite, but the minute that they cross the line and they start with, asking me to do, hey, can you step out of the car? Can you do this? No, I'm not doing anything. Absolutely not. I don't consent to any searches or seizures or none of that stuff. So, I guess I have a chip on my shoulder. But my point is, I hear your point. And yes, we have to protect the preborn. Absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that. And I appreciate the call. Let's continue our little journey across America. Let's see. Where do we go? Let's go to Shirley, Lufkin, Texas, KSFA. Go right ahead, Shirley.
Hi, this is my first time to call. I'm almost 75 years old. I live in an East Texas town. It's approximately 35,000 people. And we have just been inundated with illegal aliens. I was in a small store and... Well,
the music means we got to go, Shirley. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do appreciate it. And you know what? You're not the only ones dealing with that. A lot of people down on the border are dealing with this mess, and it's going to take all of us together, pulling together to get El Trompito across the finish line. Shirley, thanks for the call. Folks, we're coming right back. Hour number 2 is on the way with me, Rich Valdes, sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin.
This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
What's up, America? It's Rich Valdes sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. That's Valdes with an S, by the way. Happy to be with you. I host a show called Rich Valdes America at Night. Every night, live and national. It used to be the Larry King Show years ago. Then it was the Jim Bohannon Show, and that's where I came in after Bohannon retired and handed the reins over to me. And I'd love it if you check me out there. But I'm here with you tonight for the next 2 hours, 1 hour down if you're just joining us. The phone number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811 if you want to toss it up a little bit. Now, I want to get into a few things. We talked a little bit about Kamala Harris, who I like to affectionately call Kamala Harris, which in Spanish means how bad you are, and how bad she is indeed. And Kamala Harris is, she's a disgrace, but it doesn't stop there, right? There's more. She's part of this group of people called the Democrats, and they live in a place called Washington and other places, but mainly Washington. And they are constantly up to craziness. Listen to this. And I'm just going to give you the headline. We'll get into this in more depth in a little bit. But 158 Democrats voted against a bill that would deport illegal immigrants who commit sex crimes. There is a serious protection for any sex-related crimes, and the Democrats are the first ones to defend it. Guys like Tiananmen Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, who wanted to make sure that inmates had access to, she said every single inmate should have access to become the opposite sex. Crazy, right? So I'm going to get into that. Maybe at the bottom of the hour, maybe at the top of the next hour. I'm not sure yet. We do this stuff on the fly. But I want to get into something else. The safety and security of presidential candidates, former presidents, in particular, El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, El Trompito. And I think that El Trompito, who I think is doing a heck of a job, I think he needs to be protected, and appropriately so. And there's a lot of interesting things going on there when it comes to that world, right? The world of campaigning and him dodging bullets and whatnot. But there's a guy named Ronald Rowe, And Ronald Rowe is the acting Secret Service director. And he did a press conference today regarding the July 13th assassination attempt. And he finally admits now that we failed. Now, his predecessor, Kimberly Cheadle, she had already admitted that this was a failure. But this guy seemed to have been taking the high ground. And I know this guy, and I served with this guy, and he's my friend, and blah, 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 right? You've heard it. I'm sure you've heard it. If you tuned into this show on a Friday night, I know you're up to speed. You guys are Levinites, smartest in the game. So Ronald Rowe is at this press conference. I'm going to play the audio so you can hear it. Check this out.
This was a failure on the part of the United States Secret Service. It's important that we hold ourselves accountable for the failures of July 13th and that we use the lessons learned to make sure that we do not have another failure like this again. The findings of the Mission Assurance Review have prompted the Secret Service to move into the accountability phase of this process. The Office of Professional Responsibility and the Office of Integrity are reviewing the findings. And as a result of these failures, what has become clear to me is we need a shift in paradigm in how we conduct our protective operations. As was demonstrated on Sunday in West Palm Beach, the threat level is evolving and requires this paradigm shift.
I feel like I'm reading Stephen Covey over here, right? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks all about the paradigm shift. Great book, by the way. I read it years ago. And this guy, he doesn't sell me. I'm sorry. I'm not sold by this man. If I were Trump, good thing Trump has so much bravado and so much self-assuredness that, he hears this and another, I'm sure he, just dismisses it. He's whatever, I'm good. But I would probably be scared if I was like, this guy's in charge of your security. I'd be like, oh, my God, we're dead. We're doomed. This guy's a tremendo pendejo, right? There's no way this guy, he knows what he's doing. He's way too caught up with himself to even focus on doing the job. But anyway, he's there doing this press conference because today the House unanimously passed a bill to give former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris the same level of Secret Service protection that President Joe Biden gets. This is a big deal. Now, hopefully it goes into effect yesterday. But the Enhanced Presidential Security Act, introduced by Representatives Mike Lawler from New York, shout out to Congressman Lawler, and Richie Torres, a Democrat from New York, would afford major presidential candidates the same level of security that the president himself gets. The vote was 405-0. I can't remember the last time we saw a vote like that. Maybe I'll Google it later. But that's good. I think that's good news. We want to protect these people, all of them, right? The last thing we need is somebody to say, oh, the only reason so-and-so won because the other one person died. No. We'll do this fair and square. Anyway, the bill would require the Secret Service director to conduct a review of the protection on the president, vice president, major candidates, and get this report from the 150-year-old agency, the Secret Service. The report would also be submitted to the House, Senate, and Judiciary committees. The Secret Service has obviously been getting blasted since the July 13th attempted assassination of El Trompito at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And the second apparent assassination attempt, according here to the Epoch Times, I'm reading this from, at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, happened on September 15th, 5 days ago. So this is where we're at with the Secret Service and all of this crazy that's going on. And I find it just interesting that this happened. I'm glad it happened. It's a good political move, right? To get people to say, all right, well, they passed this thing. I still don't know when this thing goes into effect. I would hope that it goes into effect, like I said yesterday. And if they say, yeah, this will go into effect, next year, then thanks. Obviously, they won't be running anymore. So I'm going to presume that this is already going to be going into effect, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I'm going to guess as of Monday, giving them the benefit of the weekend. But we'll see. Anyway, I want to play this other cut that I have. Let me just go back to my cut list over here. Where am I? Here we go. Cut list. Here we go. Ronald Rowe, acting Secret Service director at a press conference today, says that employees will be held accountable. Now, this is one I don't necessarily believe, but you be the judge.
While some members of the advance team were very diligent, there was complacency on the part of others that led to a breach of security protocols. With respect to accountability, the Mission Assurance Review has identified deficiencies in the advanced planning and its implementation by Secret Service personnel. These employees will be held accountable, and this agency has among the most robust table of penalties in the entirety of the federal government.
All right, so I'm going to be critical here. It's part of what I do, right? I critique the people. I listen to the audio. I give you my opinion. Here's my opinion on this one. I think this guy, Ronald Rowe, is begrudgingly standing at that podium, giving you this message because he has to. He's eating crow. He's so beside himself because he would much rather support his boys and girls in the Secret Service. He would much rather offer platitudes and be a bureaucrat, an apparatchik of Washington, and just the canned responses. Well, the men and service, the men and women of the Secret Service are, working diligently to keep the president safe. These canned responses where they're always trying to big up somebody so that they don't have to take accountability. But here, clear, while some members of the advance team were very diligent, there was complacency on the part of others that led to a breach of security protocols. I would redact this and start the sentence with, there was a breach in the security protocols that led to the president being targeted by the barrel of a gun. And but for those that were diligent coming and, firing back and blah, 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 we were able to get, that's how I would have done it. But I would have taken the accountability up front. And I know it's hard, right? But that would have been my advice to him. Because to me, it sounds like he's grinding his teeth, wringing his hands, hating the fact that he has to be up there and be honest, hating the fact that he has to be up there and act like a public servant rather than our boss, somebody who's going to tell us what we can do because he's above the law. He's the Secret Service director, after all, right? He is a G-man, a Men in Black. He's an MIB, but not for aliens, right? Well, who knows anymore? But that's the situation here. And I find it just so, I don't know, it's so unbecoming to me. I'm a judge of people, right? You can only judge people by their character, by what you get. And my dad always told me growing up, he was like, you have to become a good judge of character. And I know they tell us not to be judgmental and judge not, lest ye shall be judged. I get it. I do. I'm not trying to judge them for the sake of being judgmental. I'm trying to judge them for the sake of having discernment and for assessing things for my safety, our safety, the safety of the president. And when you look at this guy, again, he doesn't want to admit his fault here, that as a leader, he's failed, that he took over for a lady who quit because they dropped the ball in Butler, and now they dropped the ball again. So this was the only out he had, was to say, these people screwed up. Why? What was the other option? Hi, folks, I suck, and I screwed up, and I'm going to quit too. Now, at some point, if everybody sucks and screws up, that's even worse for everybody. Right? You start looking, who's hiring these clowns? And then you go, oh, that's right, Alejandro Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Joe El Baboso Biden, excuse me, Mr. President. And voila. So for the buck to stop with him, he had to do this. And she tried to do it too, but I think she had a little more integrity than he does. Now, I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. I'm judging him based on audio clips. Now, people do that to me all day, every day, right? But to make it fair, Mr. Rowe, if you're out there, if you're listening on WMAL, if you're still in the D.C. area, if your admin assistant is listening, if anybody in the Secret Service is listening and you served at Ronald Rowe, and you could send your man a text and say there's this blowhard, loudmouth Puerto Rican kid from Brooklyn on the radio sitting in for Levin, here's the number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want to know why you suck so bad at your job. And I don't mean to be rude. I really don't. I should say why you're not great at it. Because to me, this whole thing is crazy. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Let's do a call here. Let's go to Texas. Chris, listening on Sirius XM. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, I'm a New Jersey refugee in Texas, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. Listen,
thank you, sir.
From a retired law enforcement perspective, Kamala Harris has said two things. She owns a gun, and I think she's still using marijuana, but she has done it in the past. Now, I think she purchased the gun probably when she was Willie's chew toy, as he was married, and for protection from his wife. So if we go back in time, and I think we can overlap the gun purchase to the same time she's using marijuana, probably currently, and I think we got a Hunter Biden situation. What do you think?
Oh boy. Well, I'm going to give her the out. If I were her lawyer, I would say, well, officer, I think you might be onto something. However, I think that she would probably say the gun is registered to her attorney husband, Doug Emhoff, and he's the one that's pulling the trigger because, she's too, I don't know, feminazi for that. I don't know. But I love that you're a Jersey guy that's out in Texas. I was going to say, you don't sound like a Texan. You sound like one of my neighbors. And I appreciate that, Chris. What's the weather like over there? It's hot as everything in Jersey today. It's 86 degrees.
I'm in 102-degree heat on my way back from Fort Worth, and I'm loving it. I signed on for this.
Good. Yeah, well, I think everybody, if you move to Texas, you're signing on for liberty and really, really hot days. I love Texas. Chris, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. All right, folks, now you guys got the number that's my number. 877-381-3811 is the phone number. I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys and the rest of your calls. And we got a lot more to come, so keep it locked right here. You don't want to miss any segment of the next 2 hours. I'm Rich Valdes, sitting in for the great one.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdes filling in for the great one, Mark Levin, at Rich Valdes with an S, by the way, on all of the social media if you want to chime in. I was just looking at some of the comments, funny stuff you guys are putting on there. And I want to continue with the phones. That's my number, 877-381-3811. Let's go to Craig in Georgia, listening on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, Craig.
Well, I appreciate it, Rich.
Yes, sir.
Originally from your neck of the woods up there. I grew up in Long Island in Levittown.
Oh, wow, cool.
Over the years, moved down here to South Georgia. And in 2020, after voting for Trump, we found out what they were doing to him and how they screwed up the elections. And so we got into the elections, my wife and I, and we just did something with a local college here where we had,
go ahead.
What is it, Conservatives Week. That's what it was. And we got out there and it was the Democrats versus us, and they had some speakers, see who could register people and all that. And in this local college, nobody registered with the Democrats. It was everybody wanted was Trump. And
you see that? Well, and I think the important thing here is that you did what you did, right? You got to get out there. You got to hit the grassroots. You're signing people up. That's a key part of it. And it's not for everybody because it's hard work. I did it 20 years ago, believe it or not. It was 2004. And Bush campaign. I was in New Hampshire. And I remember it, but, 20 years younger, it was a lot easier back then. But, wow, not easy is the point I'm making. And you got to be cut out for that stuff, whether it's the phone calls, the door knocking, the glad handing, whatever it is. Campaigning is not for the faint of heart, but everyone can do it. When you look at a room full of campaign volunteers, you got people that are young, people that are older, people that are retired, people that are coming after work. I mean, it's a real mix. What's your experience with that, Craig?
Well, I've been watching, of course, now since Trump supposedly lost in 2020. I see what Charlie Kirk is doing, watching him watching and see what Scott Pressler is doing and how people are trying to fix Arizona and all that. And that's what got us interested. And so we've taken off our own local Democrat Party, Republican Party. And we've been going out there. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a Trump train and around our little town in South Georgia. And we're going to invite people to it. And we're also going to be going around, which we've never done before, where we've got a couple of people that are having Democrats running against them. And so we're going to be holding a fish fry for one of the candidates who's a Republican, and we're doing.
Well, I mean, that's the bottom line. You gotta help up and down the ticket. You gotta do what you gotta do to get El Trompito elected. But of course, everything, like Tip O'Neill said, right? All politics are local. Craig, I want to thank you, brother. Georgia, Mark Levin app. I got a minute to go. That's kind of short. Hopefully this is a quick one. Nick in Chicago on WLS. Go for it, brother, quickly.
Okay, thank you. I love you, man. You're doing a nice job.
Thank you.
I was saying that this decision to put upwards of 20,000 people in a small town of about 60,000, it tells me that this Democratic Party, either somebody at the top is going a little nuts, or they're getting so desperate they don't know what to do, and they just want to.
Yeah, they're trying to break everything they can. Use the system to break the system. It's very Stalin-esque. Nick, shout out to WLS and Chicago. Love that station. All right, folks, I'm coming right back. We've got an interview coming up. That's a special treat on the Mark Levin Show. Rich Valdes in for the great one.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
All right, familia, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. The phone number, you know it, 877-381-3811. And there's a retired Navy SEAL that's fighting for the preborn in Montana. He's fighting against the lies of Jon Tester and everything else the Democrats are trying to do to take over our country. And he's on the line with us now. Help me welcome Tim Sheehy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Rich. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yes, sir. So let's start off with a little bit of your background. I mean, I know you served, but tell us about you.
Well, my best achievement, I'm a father to 4 beautiful young kids, and my wife, who was a Marine, veteran of the Afghan War. We met in the military. She's saw fit to hang out with me here for the last 20 years. We've known each other, married not quite that long, but we got 4 great kids, and we built a great family. I'm so proud of them, and that's why we're running. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, whether you join the military, join the police force, or become a firefighter, or whatever type of service it is, I think you look in the eyes of your children and say, I got to make sure we hand them the same great country that was handed to me by the generation before. So we're in this race. It's a tight race. It's going to be a knife fight all the way to the finish line, but the control of the Senate hangs in the balance here and runs right through Montana, and if we win, we will flip the Senate.
Jon Tester and the Democrats are lying about your support for many things. They've criticized you for saying that abortion is sinful. They've criticized you for supporting public land. There's a number of things that they're trying to hit you on. What's going on here?
Well, of course, there's a tremendous amount of power and influence hanging in the balance. And Chuck Schumer will do whatever it takes, say any lie, spend any amount of money, do anything. They've even tried to bankrupt my company. We're a publicly traded company. They've short-sold our stock and tried to drive us out of business. They have no rules, and that's simply because they know what's at stake. If Jon Tester, who's been a perennially vulnerable politician, always wins by just a little bit, hair's breadth, he gets across the finish line, they lose the Senate. So on substance, they lose this race every single day and twice on Sunday, Rich. I mean, every day. There's no question. We're a plus 20 Trump point state. We're a state that wants a secure border. We want cheap gas. We want safe streets. We think cops are good, criminals are bad, boys are boys, and girls are girls. And on all those issues, every single one, Jon Tester's been voting with the Biden-Harris-Waltz agenda, lockstep with the progressives the entire time. But, of course, now, he's got to run a race where the odds are against him. So they've got to distract everybody with these issues that, attack me for public lands, even though I risk my life as an aerial firefighter protecting our public lands. But they got to open up a false line of attacks on that. To go after my military record, my military service. They spent months tearing that apart. Going after my businesses. We've created hundreds of jobs here in our state, and they've seen fit that job creation is a bad thing. Let's go after that company. Let's go after those jobs and try to take that company down. And the reason they're doing all these attacks, as you mentioned, is because they have to distract Montana voters from Jon Tester's very, very progressive voting record and the fact that he's the number one recipient of out-of-state dark money and lobbyist money. He's the number one recipient of every single candidate in the entire nation, congressional, senatorial, gubernatorial, and presidential, Rich. He's the number one recipient of lobbyist cash and out-of-state dark money, and therefore he's vulnerable. And they know that, and not to mention the fact he votes with the Democrats every single time. He voted to impeach Trump twice. Voted against Trump's judges, his Supreme Court nominees, his cabinet nominees. He is a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, and obviously that doesn't go over too well in a state that Trump won by 20 points.
Folks, we're on with Tim Sheehy. Tim is a father, a husband, a combat veteran, as he mentioned, a Navy SEAL officer. He graduated from the Naval Academy in 2008. He participated in the U.S. Army Special Operations Exchange Program. He's a graduate of the U.S. Army Ranger School, Navy SEAL officer. He's got a Bronze Star with Valor for heroism in combat and a Purple Heart Medal. I think anybody in their right mind would listen to what you have to say and think twice before they believe what Jon Tester is saying. What's the biggest obstacle you're facing right now? Is it donations? Do you need people to reach into their pockets, people that are listening right now? Is it your ground game? Do you need volunteers? What's going on with the campaign?
All the above. Listen, we've had some very favorable polling here these past few months. Some showing us up 1-2 points, some showing us up 8 points. But, of course, you can't underestimate Tester and the Democrats. Tester's been, love his politics or hate his politics. You have to give him credit. He's been a very, very resilient political character over the years. He's held on, almost over a quarter century now in Montana politics between the state Senate and U.S. Senate. We are outspent structurally, tremendously, especially on the hard dollar front. He brings in a lot of money from all these lobbying groups and dark money groups. Of course, the media is always against us, as you well know, that they will run with any packaged Democrat narrative that's handed to them. So it's hard for us to get a fair shake in the media. And then, just running against the headwinds of incumbency carries a lot of benefits with it, especially 18 years of incumbency. So we're running uphill on all those battles, but we've won a ground game. We do need more help. We need volunteers. We need, yard signs. We need door knockers. We need money. Donate. TimForMT.com, TimForMT.com, $5, $10, $20. This race will be expensive to win. You're going to hear a lot about. Wall Street Journal just wrote an op-ed here today, or an editorial piece today, about how critical this race is and how this is already the most expensive race in American history per vote ever. Any race ever in our history of this nation. This is the most expensive race ever per vote. And it's just going to get more expensive. And it will be expensive for us to win this race, friends. It will be very expensive for us to win this race. But it will be far more expensive for us to lose this race than to win it. Because 16% inflation, $5 gasoline, another 12 million people pouring into this country, anti-energy policies shutting down our economy, 25% unrealized capital gains. The list goes on. these things will bankrupt the nation. They will drive businesses out of our country, and it's going to be an economic disaster that will cost all Americans massively if we lose. So I ask folks for their support. Go online, learn about us, share our social medias, donate. And if you happen to live in Montana, then head to one of our campaign offices and volunteer, because we'll put you to work.
All right, folks, that's Tim Sheehy. And the website, again, is his first name, Tim, F-O-R-M-T, like Montana, tim4mt.com. I recommend you go there, check it out, see what's what's tugging at your heartstrings, and do what you got to do, whether it's a donation, whether it's signing up to help out. Help him make Montana great again, as the U.S. Senate obviously is a battleground for the entire MAGA movement, and everything works together. So, Tim Sheehy, I want to wish you Godspeed. Good luck with everything. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks for your support. We'll talk to you again soon.
God bless. And you guys know that these things are important, right? It matters who you put in the Senate. It matters who you put in any office. And it couldn't be more evident, right? Now, let me see. Mr. Producer, a time check with you. Yep, we will. Love me some of that. All right, let me see. Where do I go here? Let's go to Rich, calling us from San Jose, California on KSFO. Go right ahead.
Hello, great to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I was a congressman, because I'd like to ask Ron Rowe a particular question. That's we can't wait for you to go to all your departments and everything else to decide what to do to improve the Secret Service. The question is, what are you doing today? What are you going to do today to make sure Donald Trump stays alive?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's the same question in a different vein that I would ask Kamala Harris. I would ask her, Madam Vice President, it's clear that you've been in office with Joe El Baboso Biden all this time. What are you going to do right now? Forget about, you want me to elect you? If you want me to consider pulling the lever for you, you've got to show me something today. Now, the chances of me voting for Kamala Harris are slim to none. But if she were to shut down the border and, start plagiarizing Trump's policies while she's in office, she might have a fighting chance with somebody. But she's not. The proof is in the pudding. They're not doing anything. They have no intention of doing anything. The Secret Service is doing this, I think, honestly, for their own self-preservation, because they'd be the laughingstock of everything. God forbid something happens again. They don't want that to happen again. As a recovering bureaucrat myself, and I was never a bureaucrat, but I did work in state government, and I can tell you, bureaucrats don't like to get their hands dirty, and they never like to look bad, ever. They don't like it. And this makes them look bad. And that's why this guy was up there begrudgingly wringing his hands and grinding his teeth, because he just couldn't handle saying they failed. And they can't say they failed again. They need to be able to turn around and go, this was the safest election in history. Our candidates, look at them. Look how good they look. They're fantastic. Both Kamala and El Trompito, they look fantastic. That's what they want to do, and I think you're 100% right, brother. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. And we'll be right back. Some more of your calls and a couple other things I got up my sleeve. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdes sitting in for the great one.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk.
You don't want to miss the all-new Life, Liberty, and Levin that's going to air this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Fox News Channel with Governor Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy. I've spoken with him. I've had him on my show, too. He's fantastic. A really, really good guy to talk to. He's a good interview. And you got Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Fox News Channel with Pete Hegseth and Charles Payne. So make sure you tune in for that. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons I love coming on this show is because I learned how to do radio from the great one, Mark Levin, from John Batchelor, from Curtis Sliwa. And these guys all told me the same thing. You're the show. You don't need calls. You don't need guests. It's just you and your thoughts and theater of the mind. And I love that idea. But then I get this show that used to be the Larry King Show and the Jim Bohannon Show. A show where these guys are infamous, right? And I shouldn't say infamous, but famous for and renowned for their ability to do these great long-form interviews. And I got a piece of advice from the great one, Mark Levin, once, who told me, Richie, you know what you got to do? You just ask a good question, and then you shut up, and you let them go as long as they can go. You let them talk about what they know how to talk about. And that was some of the best advice that I'd gotten on interviewing from Levin. And it was around the time he started the show, the Levin TV. And then, of course, the subsequent Life, Liberty, and Levin. Because Levin wasn't much of an interview. You know that. There's not a ton of interviews on the radio show. And now all I do is interviews. I do 2 hours of interviews every night, then a third hour of all phone calls. And I have a great time doing it. By the way, shameless plug, the show is called Rich Valdes, America at Night. Now, I want to go to some of your calls. You guys have been patiently waiting. Let's go to Tony, calling us from Clifton, New Jersey, the great WABC, America and Israel. Tell us more.
Hello, Rich. What a treat. So,
thank you.
I've been getting such a vibe with all that's going on, and I couldn't say one political thing to you tonight as much as I love to talk politics. What I want to say is that we have a wonderful president, right, who has really been spared his life 2 times. For many of us, we say by the hand of God. And I think that's amazing. Yeah. As much as I love the man of politics, I see him now as a man who's really being saved for our country and to move us forward. And there is a Bible verse, and I use this to share with people what we're going through right now. And it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. I have to tell you that when I look at Israel, almost every day, it's just mourning on top of mourning in that holy land that has already been through so much.
Tony, you're 100% right. It's so difficult to watch what's going on there. And like Trump says with the conflict over in Europe and Asia, we just need to stop the killing. And I agree with that. It needs to stop. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know that we wouldn't have these people running roughshod in Europe or in the Middle East if Trump was around, because America was once respected, and today we're not respected anymore. Tony, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let me see. I want to continue here. Let's go with Chuck. Chuck's in Boston, Massachusetts on XM Satellite Radio. Go ahead, Chuck.
How you doing? I'll make this as quick as I can. So if the Democrats and Harris are saying, oh, Trump's going to do this to destroy it, why didn't he do that when he was in office? And why isn't Kamala Harris doing the things she says when she's in office right now? She says 100%. She wants to have mandatory buyback of assault weapons, mandatory buyback. Who's to say she's not going to classify as all handguns? A knife could be an assault weapon. She's going to classify all handguns as assault weapons.
I don't know what her plan is, but I get your point. We can only judge them by what we know. And what we know so far is that Kamala Harris hasn't done anything, and she's done a very bad job at that. And El Trompito did a very decent job and a really good job in certain areas. And we need that again, for sure. Thanks for your call, my brother. Godspeed to you folks. The music means I got to go, but I'm coming back. Hour number 3 is coming right up. And we're going to get into that article I teased before. We're going to talk about this crazy thing. Anyway, don't go anywhere. Rich Valdes, in for the great one.
He's here. Broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
What's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. This is the Mark Levin Show. Mark will be back on Monday. It's Mark's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Mark Levin. And our phone number, if you want to join the conversation here, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. If you're a lib and you want to go at it with me, happy to do that, too. And some of you guys might know me if you've been listening for the last 2 hours and you heard this already. If you're just tuning in, I'll go over it again. Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S. I was Mr. Call Screener on the Mark Levin Show for about half of a decade, a little more than 5 years, and working alongside Mr. Producer Rich Cementa and the great one Mark Levin. Shout out to my guy Steve Walters. And I'm always thrilled when Mark Levin tags me in and says, hey, we're going to be out. Come on in. I host my own nationally syndicated radio show on the Westwood One Network on hundreds of radio stations across America every night from 10 o'clock at night to 1 o'clock in the morning, at least Eastern time. It airs, in different places, different times. And all I do is interview people, right? 2 hours of interviews followed by an hour of open phones. And that was a format that was kind of pioneered by Larry King. This is the old Larry King show that I host today. And it was continued by the late, great Jim Bohannon, who I succeeded after he retired and then subsequently passed away. So that's my radio story, and that's why I'm here with you guys tonight. Looking forward to chatting with you. And something that I teased in the earlier hour that I want to discuss with you is this idea of sex crimes, right? Because it's a big thing. There's an article in Fox News today. Let me see here. 2 days ago, sorry. 158 Democrats vote against a bill to deport illegal immigrants who commit sex crimes. Now, this is particularly problematic because it's like, okay, you don't want to deport them because you're allowing them in, inviting them in. Okay, got it. Kamala Harris is a transnational criminal who's overseeing the largest human smuggling operation that I've ever seen that rivals any modern-day slave trade. That's her. Que mala eres, which means how bad you are in Spanish and how bad she is. So Vice President Que mala eres, I equate to a transnational criminal. But why are they defending people that are committing sex crimes? In fact, the Democrats have a penchant for being soft on this stuff. And I think it's because there is a movement within the left trying to get people on board. Now, I host a podcast as well. This is America with Rich Valdes. Started out on the great WABC many years ago. And I did an episode maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where there was this professor named Alan something or other. I'm forgetting what. Alan Walker, I think was the name. And this guy taught at Old Dominion for a while and then got bounced out of there. And ultimately, he's a transgender, so I don't want to misgender. I just honestly don't know if he was born a female or a male, but I think he was born a female and became a male. And he was working on promoting this idea in a book he wrote about accepting or destigmatizing what they call minor attracted people. Now, I remember I was blown away by this when I read about it and heard about it a couple of years ago. Since then, this continues to rear its ugly head. It really does, right? And the most recent iteration of this crazy is this woman, I'm forgetting her name, but I think she'll say it in a moment when you hear the audio, who is out here now. I think she's a doctor of psychology, and she's out here making the claim that we need to differentiate between people that are just attracted to young people, pedophilia. It's not a bad thing, she says, and actual people that commit crimes against children. I think this is lunacy, and I understand the distinction, but in my opinion, this is a distinction without a difference. Check this out.
It's short for virtuous pedophiles. Not virtuous as in they're better than everyone because they're attracted to children, but virtuous like having moral standards and a sexual orientation that they have no control over, like the rest of us. Before you get all worked up, I'm talking about pedophilia, not child molestation or rape. Pedophilia is the sexual attraction to children. It's a paraphilia. There's a link to more information about it in the description, videos I've made in the past.
I'm going to pause this for a second because I think this lady, es una loca. She is nuts. She's legitimately here before you get worked up. Now, I don't know if this, her name's, by the way, Dr. Lindsay Doe. I don't know if Dr. Lindsay Doe has her own children, because usually the people that are the biggest advocates of this have never parented a child. I happen to have children, and I had them young. And I can tell you, I have two girls, two daughters. I've got a soon-to-be 19-year-old in a few days, 6 days, and my oldest daughter, who's 23, just turned 23 last month or 2 months ago. And when I hear people speak so flippantly about my children, right, because that's how I immediately think of my children and the small young children in my life, right? My ex-girlfriend has a 7-year-old daughter. My ex-wife is remarried, and she has a 8 or 9-year-old son. And these people, I see them all the time. They're like my own kids when I see them. And I think to myself, imagine somebody doing something or speaking about my children this way. Defending the person that finds my child at that age, 7, 9, the other two are adults now, but still, right? You tell me. If somebody tells you, oh, I think you're 19-year-old, I'm sexually attracted to you. You think that guy's going to keep talking for long? Right? So this is my point. How does anybody, Dr. Lindsay Doe or any of these other crazies, think that it's okay to do this? But they do, and they're out here peddling their goods. Play the tape.
Human diversity and development. Molestation and rape are different. These are abusive actions that often have nothing to do with attraction. Many child abusers are actually sexually attracted to adults, but they act out on children. Meaning you probably don't object to pedophiles because you're compassionate and rational, but you may loathe child molesters and rapists because they violate people. I personally try not to judge either. .org.
Excuse me, I personally judge all of them. Thank you very much, Dr. Lindsay. If you don't like it, don't listen to my show and do whatever you got to do. I can't sit here in good faith and allow people like this to say these things. They could say what they want. It's a free country, right? But I'm not going to sit here and keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, you know what? That's great. We shouldn't judge people that want to rape children. Right? Just whether they do it or not, they want to. Right now, some crazies like Dr. Alfred Kinsey, the father of the sexual revolution in America, and others, I forget that other crazy guy's name who he got arrested for. Anyway, it'll come to me in a moment. But these people, they believe in intergenerational sex. They believe that adults should have sex with children. Children should have sex with adults. These are sick people. Sick people. And Kinsey, and again, and his acolytes, and I'm forgetting that guy's name. It'll come to me. But they try to make this intellectual argument to appeal to, I don't know, I guess your sense of fairness, to say that just if, you can get angry at them when they act on it. I should get angry at when they act on it, that somebody is sexually attracted to a child. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is absolutely bizarre to me. But there is a penchant for this amongst those on the left. They really enjoy defending these people and these ideas and removing the stigma. And I have to say, maybe I'm wrong, and if you think I'm wrong, call me and let me know. But I'm going to say this. It's wrong. This is wrong. And I believe in Jesus. I believe in forgiveness. But I will not believe in that. And I believe people can be delivered, and I believe people can be redeemed. But I don't believe in that. So yes, be judgmental. Yes, protect your children. We can't normalize things the same way they're trying to normalize the murder of President Trump. Because they don't like his politics, we should all of a sudden be okay with killing people? Come on. Listen, this is a crazy idea. And it's one that has advocates out there. There are advocates out there actively advocating for people to become more open-minded about people that suffer from this. Now, I believe in having compassion. I do. I don't want to let me see, find the right word here. I don't want to crucify somebody for being afflicted, but I'm happy to crucify somebody for doing the wrong thing or wanting to do the wrong thing. And sometimes those are one and the same, and I understand that. I really do. But I'm not going to sit here and tolerate this doctor coming on here and saying that I should somehow accept this behavior, that I should accept that they have no control over their sexual orientation the way I have no control over mine. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am. This is absolute insanity. Many men like women, many women like men. Some are rapists. And they're trying to normalize what they call a minor attracted person, a MAP, or making a distinction between pedophilia and those that commit child sexual assault or child rape. I understand the difference. People need to be helped. Period. The end. Punto y final. This isn't something that we can just turn a blind eye to. This has happened for a millennia in the Catholic Church and other places. And we see the results of it, what we see, what we can see, the fallout of it. It's severe. There's nothing good about it. It's something that if we can prevent it, we should. But it's not going to start by saying, I think that we should accept this in society. No, we shouldn't accept it. We can accept that someone needs help, but we're not going to accept that it's okay for them to like what they do, if that makes any sense. Anyway, I want to continue on this topic, and I want to get your reactions to this woman, Dr. Lindsay Doe, when we come back. Again, our phone number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811 if you disagree. Again, my name, Rich Valdes, at Rich Valdes with an S, on all of the social media, sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. Our phone number is 877-381-3811. I keep saying 83 because my phone number on my radio show is at 833 number. Anyway, let us continue here. I want you to hear a clip before I go to your calls on this. This clip is from a woman calling the radio, Philly radio, by the way. Shout out to Philly. And she called a radio station Q102 Radio. And she's representing an organization called International Pedophile and Child Emancipation. And she's representing this organization. And listen to what she had to say.
I work with IPCE. If you don't know, that's International Pedophile and Child Emancipation. And our goal is to abolish the stigmatization of people with pedophilic sexual interests and normalizing the potential role in moderating pedophiles' emotional well-being. I know that's a mouthful.
Wait, before we get any further,
what are we saying right now?
Yeah, this sounds disgusting. Are you saying you're a pedophile?
No, I'm not saying that I'm a pedophile in the sense that I've never had sexual relations with a person underage.
But you're saying we should accept
because
pedophiles?
That's illegal. Well, I just don't believe we should be shunning those in our community that have desires to engage in a romantic relationship with someone in a drastically different age group.
So you're saying you support pedophiles?
I'm saying I support love.
Okay.
And just because America views ages like 18 as some sort of imaginary bar or line in the sand for humans to engage in romantic relationships doesn't mean it's right.
So you don't see anything wrong with a 20-year-old dating a 12-year-old?
That's not what I'm saying. But listen, in Nigeria, the age of consent is 11. It's 14 in other countries like Brazil, Colombia. If we're taking if we're taking a month as a country to showcase our pride for other communities of sexual exploration, then I think we should add the letter P, which is just as important as the L, G, B, and T.
Oh, my.
This is a lobbyist for pedophiles. I'm here to say I really don't care who doesn't like me after I say these things. I'm not on board with this. I'm really not. We can't continue to redefine everything. The alphabet mafia is really becoming a mafia, right? I mean, now she wants to LGBTQIA plus P. And I'll tell you this, I've interviewed plenty of people that are gay. Plenty. I have a caller on my radio show. She's a very faithful caller. She calls in several times a week. was born a man. Has been living as a woman for 30 years. And we don't agree on a lot of things, but she agrees anything that goes after children, whether it's the trans movement going after children, the pedo movement going after children, anything going after children, trying to normalize adult and child sex. This is a problem. And I try to be peaceful. I really do. I'm not looking for a problem with these people. I'm not looking for a debate. I'm looking to a clear line of demarcation here to say, hasta aquí llegamos. This is as far as I'm willing to go. I'm not even going to engage in this conversation. That is a hard pass, full stop, no. That's it. And I think people need to join me on this, because the fact that we have people calling radio shows to lobby, that's their free speech, and God bless them, they can do whatever they want. I'm going to do whatever I want and make sure that my kids grow up in a place that's safe and free and healthy. And that is none of the above, right? It's not safe, free, or healthy to go out here and lobby for pedophiles to be accepted into the community. What's next? And the reason I'm strong on this is because I got into a big fight with a university professor at New York University when I was an undergrad. And his doctoral work, he was a ABD student at the time, so he had all but dissertation, and he was at Fordham, but he was teaching at NYU. And he hated the fact that I was a Christian. He hated it. And this guy's body of work was all about how rape should not be considered illegal because it's culturally acceptable in some parts of the world, and that it's a matter of one's human development, that some people are more developed than others because we all ultimately come from the caveman era. And back in the caveman era, it was acceptable to hit the woman over the head and drag her in the cave. This is, in effect, what he was arguing. Absolute crazy town. I don't buy it. I'm not with it. I want to know what you guys are thinking. Let's go to Kansas City, Missouri, KCMO. Elaine, what say you?
Hi, I am a mother of 2 young girls. I'm so glad you're having this conversation. And as Dan Bongino says, that you're bringing the receipts, because I think when you talk about this, and, most people would say, that's crazy. No one's making this argument for minor attracted persons being normalized. And the fact that you're willing to have this conversation on the radio show so that people can hear it and understand that this is the next push, the next movement, I think is so important. Because I can tell you as a mother that if anyone came after my 11-year-old, my 12-year-old, that is not okay. And I think any reasonable person, Republican, Democrat, Independent, can agree that a 12-year-old cannot consent to sexual exploration with an adult. And that is just, that call that you played was insane.
Yeah, something she said while she was saying that, she used the word you just used. She said, if we're going to be committed to sexual exploration, who said we were committed to sexual exploration? I think this is an individual choice. Look, the Apostle Paul, what did he say? I, Paul, chief amongst the sinners, right? Something about like that. Listen, we can do whatever we do. It doesn't mean that what I do, you got to do. And I'm not going to sit here and create a lobbying group called the International whatever I just read to you before and say that it's okay. And I'm with you. Look, we have laws already. You don't like the law? Lobby the law. Find yourself a congressman and see which idiot congressman decides to sign up for that, to say we're going to lower the age of consent. They're already trying it with voting, and that's a trap. Elaine, thanks for the call. The music means we're coming right back. Your calls and more, plus a little bit of the normalization of the murder of Donald Trump. People want to continue normalizing it, making it his fault. Rich Valdes, in for the great one.
Mark Levin, radio's principal patriot. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
All right, America, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media, sitting in for the great one, Mark Levin. Happy birthday to Levin, by the way. I think his birthday's mañana. Mr. Producer can fact check me on that. But I know it's a few days before it is, mañana. So shout out to the great one and his birthday. Now, speaking of Levin, don't miss Mark this weekend. Mark might have, taken the day off today from radio, but he was up and on his grind early today, making sure that he had all his ducks in a row for his show tomorrow night. And that's on Fox. You don't want to miss that. Let me see. I got it right here. Saturday at 8 p.m. on the Fox News Channel. He's got Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy. And then on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday, 8 p.m., he's got Pete Hegseth and Charles Payne. Make sure you check out Life, Liberty, and Levin with the great one, Mark Levin. You can tell there's only 20 minutes left because I'm tongue-tied, right? And I still have 3 hours of radio to go. Anyway, we're going to continue. I want to talk about this Trump assassination. There's a clip of audio that I wanted to play for you. Let me see the number here. It was Axelrod blaming Trump? Mr. Producer, do you know the number on that? Number 14. Listen to this.
I mean, I was horrified. Everybody should be by what happened in Butler, about the events of last Sunday. And I know, but we have to be honest about this. If you encourage and everybody, I know that Trump folks will say, well, you can't, blame the victim here. But the fact is that his rhetoric and his appeal has been tinged with permission structure for people. When you tell people that if we lose, you won't have a country anymore, and we saw it on January 6th. It was his words that precipitated a violent insurrection at the Capitol. So you can't sow the seeds of violence and then play the victim.
That's David Axelrod, senior advisor to Barack Obama in the White House when he was there. And I'm going to say, look, this is one of those things where you have to exercise judicious discernment, right? There are certain people that heard what he just said. You can't sow the seeds of violence and then play the victim. And they were standing up in their chair, slow clapping, giving this guy a standing ovation, thinking that's exactly what I think. Because these people operate in a world that is devoid of compassion and probably devoid of the Ten Commandments. If you're one of those people, you're never going to understand what I'm saying, ever. But if you are the type of person that says, nobody should be killed, nobody should be killed because we disagree politically, then you have a fighting chance. The fact that David Axelrod is blaming Trump, saying that because he says we're not going to have a country anymore, that somehow it's okay to be shot at a rally, it's okay to have a gun pointed at you while you're playing golf. Are you kidding me, David Axelrod? Unbelievable. The fact that they are trying to gaslight the American people, this is gaslighting 2.0, right? This is gaslighting like I've never seen it before, making it okay. I got a phone call today from a friend of mine, somebody I worked with professionally some years ago, and he tells me that a friend of his who is a preacher down in the South got into an argument with him because they were making the case that there are plenty of instances in the Bible where there were people killing people because they were enemies of God. And I think to myself, I'm not a theologian, nor do I claim to be, nor do I play one on the radio. But if there's one thing I know, it's that those of us that follow Christ, and if you don't, that's okay, I'll teach you something. We believe that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law, the Christ, the Messiah. That's my belief. If he's fulfilled the law and leaves us with these two commandments that don't break any of the other law, he says, right? Love God and love people. Then how is it that we come... Now, again, I don't know David Axelrod's proclivity when it comes to his faith. But I do know that blaming someone for being the victim of an assassination and saying that he's playing the victim... I haven't heard Trump play the victim at all. I haven't heard him say, woe is me. I'm saying, woe is Trump, because of savage commentary like the one David Axelrod just made, saying that you can't sow the seeds of violence and play the victim. He wasn't sowing the seeds of violence. Standing up for a country, speaking rhetorically about not having a country anymore, I think it's safe to say, when you look around, we don't have one right now. Obviously, we still have a country, right? It's rhetoric, after all. It's hyperbole. This is what we do. But I just did 2 segments on people advocating to accept pedophilia. This man is advocating to accept murder. We are moving the needle in the wrong direction here. So clearly, what's left? Not a lot. So when Trump says we're not going to have a country, I get it. I understand what he's saying, and I think most people do. And I think that's why people gravitate towards Trump, because they realize, you know what? This guy makes sense. Just makes sense. Anyway, I want to very quickly hit the phones, 877-381-3811. Let's go to Brent calling us from Los Angeles. 870 The Answer. Go ahead, Brent. Brent, are you with us? Going once, going twice. Brent is gone. All right, don't worry. We got another one. Let me see. Where else do we go here? We've got Evan calling us from Vancouver, British Columbia. That's Canada. Hey, Evan, go right ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, you can hear me. So I just wanted to bring up this. You know, you got me vibrating, man, with these pedophiles. It's crazy. Whoa. But if you look at how the wokeness has gotten into the schools, has gotten into the kids, the very liberal left teachers aren't teaching. They're teaching transgenderism. They're teaching all of these things, and they're making these kids think that to be a boy who wants to be a girl is okay when they can't even decide if they like trucks or Barbies in their time. And now you're having these people like this doctor of psychology, where he makes lunatic.
Dr. Lindsay Doe, yeah.
Vouch for these things, and then all of a sudden, now they're gonna start preaching this stuff to the kids at the same time, and they're just gonna indoctrinate them and indoctrinate them and indoctrinate them. And these kids who don't know right from wrong because they're so young, they're gonna think everything is okay and this is the way it's gonna be, and it's not. They are fundamentally destroying our society from the inside out.
But Evan, if you say they're destroying society, then you can't play the victim if they try to kill you, right? At least that's what David Axelrod says. I think you're 100% right, brother. And that's coming from a Canadian, folks. He gets it. He sees the writing on the wall. Evan, thank you for your call, sir. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're tuned in. And I'm going to take a quick pause right here. I'm going to come right back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
Mark Levin.
We have a few minutes to go before we wrap up this wonderful, wonderful program that Mark has here, and you guys, great audience. We're going to get to the remaining calls, and there's a last clip I want to play for you, and it is, let me see here. It is Kamala Harris herself with Oprah at the Unite for America event yesterday, talking about something she doesn't ever talk about, inflation. Listen to this.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries.
In the words of my mom, God bless her and God rest her soul, ¿Qué le pasa a esta? What is wrong with this one? So how are you going to help me afford life better? Well, because the aspirations and dreams and ambitions of your family, and both rightly having the right to have these terms. What is wrong with this woman? Listen, I don't know who's buying that. I mean, maybe the person she was directly speaking to might have been a little bit enamored with her, being like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to the vice president, the first female vice president. This is a big deal for them. You know, she feels like she's in the spotlight. Cool. I get it. That's great. But how about everybody else in the room that's like scratching their head, hearing crickets play in the background with no answer? And that's what Kamala Harris does every single time. She lives up to her name. How bad you are, Kamala. She really is that bad. And I would love for her to give an answer. I would love for somebody in the media. CNN lately has been stepping up a little bit. saying, you're not answering the questions. ABC had to fact check themselves after they were complicit in aiding and abetting her in the debate, or whatever they wanted to call it. It wasn't really much of a debate. It was more like an ambush, 3-on-1 ambush. But anyway, my point here is this woman is all over the place. She says things and word salad doesn't even begin to explain it. And the fact that she doesn't do interviews, this is why. Because she can't even handle questions from the people. We the people. Imagine questions from trained interviewers, right? Journalists. People went to J school. I want you to hear this one. This is her aide, Brian Fallon. He said this today. He says, listen, no. Just ignore the fact that she's not doing the interviews. Listen to this.
People should not read too much into what some have described as a shortage or a lack of interviews in the first 6 weeks of the campaign. We had a lot to do in the first 7 weeks, and now in the remaining weeks of the campaign, being out there and being everywhere as much as possible is a strategic imperative.
I need to hire this guy, right? Everybody should hire a Brian Fallon for themselves. So when your boss says, so look, you've been working for us for a year, and in this year we expected you to do X, Y, and Z. You say, well, hold on. We need you to not read too much into what I did the first 6 months on the job. Because we had a lot to do. I had a lot to do in the first 7 months, and now in the remaining, 3 months of the year, we're going to go ahead and be everywhere, and that's a strategic imperative. Just imagine if you could talk to your boss like that, because that's what she's doing, right? Her boss is the American people, we the people, and she doesn't give what. So all I could say is, Kamala Harris, keep living up to your name. You're really letting us all down. I want to know what you guys think, because I don't want to end the show with a bunch of people on hold. And let's see, where do we go? Let's go to Janelle. She's in Denver, Colorado. Go right ahead, Janelle.
Hi, thanks. Hey, I don't know if all these people that are thinking that Kamala is just the bee's knees, I don't think that they really understand the fact that when they vote for her and they have to deal with the fallout should she win, they're not exempt from the fallout of having her as president. They're right in there with everybody else that voted for Trump. So all her problems. But, I think in analogies. Yeah. I always have an analogy for something. And all these idiots with pedophilia thinking that we should just be just fine with our children around them and it's all good and they're not committing any grievous acts. So I think we should draw a parallel to the zoo and visiting the lions or tiger's cage, okay? Let's just put these people in there, them being the children, but the people who believe in this pedophilia, and let's let the tigers, they're not hungry.
You're saying don't let the fox guard the hen house. I get you, Janelle. I think you're spot on there. Thank you for your call. Denver, Colorado, shout out to you guys. Let's see, where else do we go here? John calling us from Southern California on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. That pedophile creature is clearly a sociopath or worse. And the natural law or moral law is generally enforced by society. In my experience, the mothers would be even more fierce than the fathers. If they leave that wide open in law, then there's going to be more of that kind of activity. We don't need that.
Yeah, well, that's why they have the term, right? She went all mama bear on him. And, that's nature, right? That is literally how God created us. Animals are animals, and I guess humans are the most sophisticated form of animals. And I was watching something on Instagram earlier today, and somebody was criticizing this woman who videotaped herself. I guess she left her window open, and some baby raccoons made their way inside her window into her bedroom. And she's trying to grab the little baby raccoon and put it out, but the mom raccoon is by the window, and every time she touches the baby raccoon, she hisses and tries to scratch her. So she backs up and she lets the little baby raccoon, climb up her bed onto the windowsill, and then the mom, and there's 3 of them. So she gets the last baby out, she allows it to escape, and she goes to close the window, and the mother raccoon does what? Comes in and bites her on the hand and scratches her or whatever. And they're thinking, why do you do that? Because she's an idiot. Don't mess with the raccoons. That's the point. Excellent call. Thank you, everybody. Shout out to Pablo, Gary, and Michelle. I am Rich Valdes. Honored to be here with you guys. Mark Levin will be back on Monday. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America.